A warm welcome to all of you. I'm Nilesh. I am one of the PT trainers at PTE Tutorials. And today we are going to discuss about the listening module of PTE. What we are going to do here is, basically first of all, I'll be giving the overview of the entire listening section. And then what we'll do is we'll be discussing each task in detail, in what sequence you will get the tasks, how to perform each task, and then what are the important tips for each individual task. And finally, I'll tell you that how to practice each task to get the best score or to get the desired score. Okay, so now before we begin, I have a couple of instructions for all of you. The first instruction is that if possible, please keep a pen and a paper handy. This will help you to note down all the important points. And second thing is that if you have any questions, please wait till the end of the presentation that I'm going to give. And at the end of the session, in the last part, I would be taking the questions and I'll try and answer all of them. So please don't ask questions during the seminar so that it does not disturb the flow of the seminar. All right. So first of all, here is the overview of the listening section. These are the 8 type of tasks that you would have in your PTE listening section, and each type of task would require you to listen to an audio and then perform different activities. In one of the tasks, you might need to listen to the complete audio and then write a summary from it. In the next one, you might need to listen to an audio, and from there you would need to answer some specific question. In another task, you are listening and reading simultaneously. So you're performing different activities in different tasks, and this requires different type of listening skills or listening sub skills. So the sub skill would be could be that you might need to listen for some detailed information, or you might need to listen to just get an overall idea of the entire recording. And at some places you might even need to predict what you're going to expect in the final part of the recording. So different skills are required, and you need to sharpen its skill. Now, talking about the 8 type of tasks, the first task is summarize spoken text. Here you listen to an audio recording, and after listening to the audio recording, you're supposed to write a summary of whatever you have listened to. You could get 2 or 3 of these, and the length of the recording is around 60 to 90 seconds. And yes, it is a lengthy task. So you have 10 minutes to perform each of these. And so this is an individually timed task, and the scores go both to your listening and to your writing section. After that, the 7 tasks after summarize spoken text have a combined timer. That means for summarize spoken text, you have 10 minutes to perform each task, but after that, whatever the time is remaining, you're supposed to perform all these 7 tasks. So then you have multiple choice question, multiple answers, where, as the name suggests, that you listen to a recording, and after listening to the recording, you would have a question and you're supposed to answer. Select options. More than one answer would be correct, and you could have 2 or 3 of these. The normal length of the recording would be 40 to 90 seconds. Here you get 1 mark or 1 point for each correct response. And yes, it is a negative, you have a negative marking here. So if you choose an incorrect option, you get a -1 point. The scores are contributed to the listening part of PT, or the listening scores. Then you have fill in the blanks. This is the third task. Now, as the name suggests, you again have to listen to a clip, and there would be a transcript in front of you, and in the transcript there would be some gaps. So you have to listen to the script and fill the gaps by listening to the word that should be there in the gap. And the normal length of the recording again would be 30 to 60 seconds, and you get the blank that you, for each correct blank, you get a mark. And yes, the spelling should be correct. The scores would then be contributed to listening and writing. So this is again an important task. Then you have highlight correct summary, where again you listen to a recording and then you choose from different summaries. And now here you listen to get the overall meaning and then compare what you're listening. Again, you have 2 or 3 of these, and yes, the scoring, if you select the correct answer, you get a point. So we will be I'll be explaining all these tasks in detail. So here I'm just giving you an overview, and then your multiple choice, choose single answer, same, more or less similar to multiple answers. The only difference here is only one response or only one answer is correct. So you have to listen and then choose the correct answer. You could have 2 or 3 of these on your test day, and the scores will be contributed to listening. You get 1 point for choosing one correct answer. Then you have select missing word. Now in this task, you will listen to a recording, and at the end of the recording, the last word or the last few words or the last phrase would be replaced by a beep sound. So you have to choose from the options that are given. You have to choose that what is the most appropriate response that you need to give, or what is the correct answer. In fact, again, 1 point for each correct response, and you have 2 or 3 of these, so in total around 2 or 3 points, and the score only goes to listening. So in not so important task, then you have highlight incorrect words. Now, highlight incorrect words, you listen to an audio recording, at the same time you have a transcript in front of you on the computer screen. You read the transcript, and there would be some words that would be different from what you hear in the audio. So in the audio, you would have all the words that are correct, but whereas there would be some words in this transcript that would be incorrect, that would be different from the audio. So you need to choose or select those words by clicking on those words, and for each word that you select, a credit point goes towards your listening score. Now, if you select an incorrect word here, or if you just choose each word randomly, for each incorrect selection, you get a -1 or minus marking. And now the last one here, you might not be able to read it perfectly. It's write from dictation, one of the most important tasks for the listening section. And as the name suggests, you have to listen for a specific information, and then after listening to the sentence, you have to type the sentence into the box that is given, and each word that you type each word carries 1 point, so 1 point is credited towards your listening and writing score, and this comes at the end of the test. Before I start explaining each and every task individually, I just like to tell one thing, that this particular section comes at the end of your test. So you've already done, say, around two hours of test. You have done a lot of reading. You've read 15 to 20 different type of text on different topics. You've been exhausted reading that. You have done you have written essay, you've read summary in summarized written text. That means you've done a lot of work in the writing section, and then you've done a lot of work in the speaking section. So you're exhausted by the time you reach here. Now, before you begin this section, you have to be really focused, because in this particular section, the more focused you are, the chances of getting getting a better score. Because if you're not focused, you might miss on some tasks which are really important, and you have very less time for that. So I'll be talking about the time management part at the end of this webinar. But before we begin individual task, why I'm saying this is so that you understand that you have to be really focused when you are doing this. Okay, so let's begin with the first task that you have here in this particular section. The first task, summarize spoken text. Now, the summarized spoken text would look like something like this on your screen. So you will hear a lecture, right? So these are the instructions basically, which tell you that you will hear a lecture, and you are listening to the lecture, and after listening to the lecture, you're supposed to write a summary for a fellow student who was not present at the lecture. So you are listening to the lecture, and then you're writing a summary for your friend. Now, important thing that has been marked here in red, you should write 50 to 70 words. So this is really important that your summary be between 50 to 70 words, and you have 10 minutes to finish this task. So 10 minutes is it's a very long task, but you need to be focused, because then there are 7 other type of tasks that you need to perform. So you make sure that you manage your time efficiently and perform manage your time within the task efficiently. That's what I'm trying to say, because you need to check your answers in the check your spellings and everything at the end of the task. So basically you will be listening to a recording, and the recording would be played here on the before the recording begins. You will have 10 to 12 seconds, and then the recording will start, and this bar will start to start moving, and when the recording ends, it will stop over here. You can adjust your volume as per your requirement, and yes, you will you have to then type in your answer in this box, and you would have word counters that would tell you how many words you have written, so that you make sure that you write between 50 to 70 words. And once everything is done, once everything is over, you click next to go for the next question. So now, how do you perform for this task, or what is the method that should be used for this particular task? So see, you can divide this task into 2 parts as such. So it's 3 parts. First, before the actual audio begins, the recording begins here. Before that, you have a few seconds, like 12 seconds. Then the time during the audio, and at the end, when the audio is completed, the time after that. Now, here what you need to understand is that you have to perform different activity at different times. So before the audio begins, there is a certain activity that you have to do. Once the audio is started, there is a certain activity that you have to do. And once after the audio is completed, there is a certain activity that you have to do. So is what you have to do in your part 1. That is, before the audio begins, you have to be prepared to take down the notes on your erasable notepad. So they give you a plastic notepad with a marker sort of pen. You have to be ready to take down all the notes on that erasable notepad. So be prepared in those 12 seconds. And once your audio begins, you have to take down notes. Now, it's very important to take down notes in this task, because without taking down notes, it would be actually impossible to, not impossible, but it would be really difficult to write an appropriate summary, write a proper or correct summary. So note making is very essential in this task. And so while you're taking notes, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind. The first thing is that you need to capture the main ideas and the supporting ideas. So for doing this, you need to use some keywords, some abbreviations. You can have your symbols, you can have arrows. So you can have your own, you need to in fact prepare your own or practice your own shorthand. The certain symbols that you are very comfortable with or you can easily identify with. You need to be prepared with these symbols. You need to practice these keywords and symbols. So it could be as simple as if you want to write the word important, you can use the symbol IMP. If you want to say something is increasing, you can just use the arrow to show increasing or decreasing. Then something is important, you can just put up a star and highlight it. So you have to be prepared with your own shorthand, something that you are comfortable, so that when you read it again, you know that what is the meaning of that or what it is trying to say. Okay, so you need to develop that before you start taking notes. Now, while taking the notes, what you actually are, so while you are listening to the audio and while you are taking down the notes, there is one thing that you need to keep in mind. You would not be able to take down everything, because it's not a big it's not a task where you have to write down each and everything. It's not practically possible to do that. You actually have to note down certain keywords or key phrases that come across during that recording. So while you're making the notes, your main attention should be towards listening. You should be more focused towards listening and trying to understand what the speaker is trying to say, rather than just focus on what you're writing. So while you're writing, you don't just try to uh, understand what you're writing at that moment. Just make notes. So that would be a more mechanical task, making notes. Your main focus would be towards the actual recording. And while you're while you are listening, your idea is not to write down each and everything, but your idea, the task is to find out that what is the main idea that is being conveyed in this lecture, and what are the other supporting ideas that are being conveyed. So what do we mean by main idea is that what is the opinion of the speaker, or what is the viewpoint, or what is an observation that the speaker has made on a certain topic. Now he could be speaking for a topic, or he could be speaking against a topic, or he could be presenting an argument against a belief that is held by a general belief. He could be either challenging it, or he could be speaking for it. It could be against it. So your main aim is to catch that what is the author trying to say here, what is his or her opinion in that particular recording. That is the main thing that you have to capture. Because if you don't have that main idea, and if you just write down the supporting points, you might lose marks in content. So for that, this is very, very important. So many people who are losing marks in the listening section, this could be one of the reasons, that if you have not captured the main idea, and if you have just written down words and not clearly written the main idea, then it could be a big difference in the message that your summary is conveying. Okay, so you have to be careful about that. So main idea is the opinion. Once you have had that main idea, once you get the main idea, after that you can write down the examples that, or some supporting sentences that the author is saying or giving. Now that could be that a recent survey has substantiated the opinion, or a recent study or a recent experiment revealed these facts. And then there would be numbers and names and figures and interesting data to support the point of view of whatever the speaker is saying. So you can write down those names and data and everything. Yes, you can. That is also important to write down, but you must remember that you do not compromise on the main idea. You do not forget to write down the main idea. Now, while you are doing this, while you're listening to the recording, your main focus is on listening and capturing what the main idea is, and you're taking down the notes. But once the recording is over, after that, just don't start typing, or just don't start doing anything else. Sit back and just for a moment, not long, sit back and just try to recollect what you heard in the lecture and see that have you written all the points from there. You would be surprised to know that sometimes some of the points that you might not have written, you would recollect them. That yes, I heard this in the lecture, but I've forgotten. So you can use those 2 or 3 points in the end, and that would be really helpful when you're short of content while writing the summary. So what happens is many people are not very fast at note making and face a particular difficulty for the content and are not able to write more than or 250 words. So for them, it is very important to just sit back, reflect that what they have heard, and if they are able to recollect something, write down whatever they recollect. But make sure that you don't do this for, just don't sit and recollect for 2 or 3 minutes. It's hardly like 15-20 seconds. You recollect and write down the key points, and then you start writing your summary. So this is what you do in the first part of the task, where you listen to the audio recording. So while listening, you're just focused on listening, getting the main ideas, getting the supporting ideas, and writing down everything in a more mechanical way, focusing more towards the lecture and the main ideas, and then trying and recollecting something from the lecture that you might not have noted down, that could prove to be helpful in the end. Once you've completed the note making process, after that you have a few minutes in which you have to write down this summary and finish the task. Now, one thing I want you to understand here is that you have total 10 minutes to perform this task. Out of the 10 minutes, you spend, say, the recording is, say, 1.5 minutes. On an average, it's like up to 90 seconds. So say it's 1.5 minutes. So in the remaining time, in the remaining 8.5 minutes, you're supposed to write down this summary, check your grammar, check your spellings, check the verb form, the structure of the sentence, everything, and see if the first letter is a capital. Have you put full stops? Have you used the correct punctuations? All that has to be done in those 8.5 minutes. So I would say you need at least 2.5 minutes, in fact, to check. So if you look at it in this way, you practically only have 6 minutes to write down from the notes. So keep this in mind, that you spare some time to check in the end. Okay, so now what happens once you have taken down the notes? How do you write the summary? Okay, before that, I would what we would do is I help you to understand the scoring criteria of this particular task, and then talk about how to write this summary, so that you understand that what are the key things that you need to keep in mind while writing this summary. So why we are seeing the score first is so that you understand that what you have, or that when you're writing, what you have to keep in mind. Okay, so each summarized spoken text, it is scored on a scale of 10 points, and the 10 points are divided like this: 2 for content, 2 for form, 2 for grammar, 2 for vocabulary, and 2 for spelling. So now if you get a 0 in content, then you're not scored for all the other traits. So you remember that you cannot get a 0 in the content. And if you see the description, it says that omits or misrepresents the main aspects. That means if you have failed to cover the main points, and if you get a 0 here, the complete score out of 10 in this task would be 0, because you've got a 0 in content. So you need to remember this while writing your summary. This is the first point that you need to keep in mind while you're writing a summary. So the best way to get a 2 on 2 for content is that you write down the main idea first. You begin your lecture by writing, or begin your summary, by writing that this lecture was about, or this lecture discussed, or the lecturer discussed, or the lecturer talked about, or the talk delineates, or your structure or style, whatever you're comfortable with. You start by saying the main point first. What was the main viewpoint of that particular speaker? After that, in the following sentences, you can write down the supporting points. That would be the best way to get a 2 on 2 for the content, and you cannot compromise on the content. Okay, then this 2 marks, it's very simple to score, right between 50 to 70, and you have this 2 marks. 2 marks for grammar if all the sentences are grammatically correct, if you have used the correct punctuations, if you have used the correct verb forms, the structuring is okay, you get a 2 on 2 for grammar. Now if you have made some minor slips, then it's okay, but there should not be big grammatical errors. If you make the mistakes over there, then you might lose marks over here. If there are small errors, I mean, then you might lose a mark. If it's a slip, it's okay, you still get your marks. Now for vocabulary, it says appropriate choice of words. So appropriate choice of words means that have you been able to identify? So here again it works in this way, that when you say that this lecture was about, and then you write the main point, and instead of the main point, if you have written a supporting idea that this lecture was about, and you've written an example at there, that means you have not understood what the actual lecture was about, and based on that you have written that this lecture was about, and you have not expressed yourself properly, and then you are saying that in the next sentence that he highlighted, and so whatever words that you are using, if they're not expressing what you're trying to say, then it could be, you could lose marks for vocabulary even. But if you're writing simple sentences, regular routine vocabulary, it's okay, you can get a 2 on 2 because your expression is okay. So you don't need to write a very I would say high level vocabulary here. You just need is simple sentences that express what you are trying to say. If you're doing that properly, you get a 2 on 2 on this vocabulary part. Now this last part, spelling, the 2 marks for spelling, this is a bit tricky. Say you've written, you identify the main points, you've written a good summary, it's between 50 to 70 words, the grammar is okay, your choice of words is okay, everything is okay, you've got an 8 here, 8 on 8. But if you make one spelling mistake out of those 60 or 70 words, you lose 1 mark. If you make another spelling error, you lose 2 marks. And when you're writing quickly, and it is time bound, and you're under a certain pressure, chances are that you might make a mistake in the spelling. So this is a thing where you have to be really careful. The best of the writers, or the best of writers, the people who are very good at very good at English language, even they lose marks at this part, spelling. So you have to take care of this. So these are the 5 things that we have to take care while we are writing the summary. Now we'll discuss how to write this summary, but just remember this: you have to take care of content, form, grammar, vocabulary, and spelling. All right. So now how to write a summary, or what to do when you're writing a summary, what to remember. Summarize, as we discussed earlier, that summarize the main point and then refer briefly to the essential supporting points. Okay, so summarize the main point. That means introduce your lecture, or start your lecture. Your first sentence of the lecture should be about the main point or the main idea of the lecture, and then after that the sentences that you write should include the supporting points. Now there could be many supporting points. If there are a lot of supporting points, then include those which are really essential. So what I was saying is that for this particular writing part, you have to write the first main point in the first sentence, followed by the supporting ideas. And if there are many supporting ideas, write the ones that are really essential or which are really important. Now this is an important point, the second one. Many people are suggesting to follow templates, saying that this is a particular template, and if you follow this template, then there are chances that you would get a good score. Now, what we need to understand here in this particular part is that anyone who is following a template you need to understand that what is their understanding of the language. I mean, if someone who is really good at English and has been able to identify the main ideas and the supporting points, and if he is able to efficiently use them in a particular template, he or she might get a good score. But if you blindly follow, so here what I've written here is, don't blindly follow. If you just blindly follow a template, if you don't know that what you have to write in those gaps between in the template, if you don't know what are the words that you need to fill in those gaps, you might be in for a trouble. You might the template would in fact work against you instead of working for you. So you need to really if you understand what the template, if you understand the sentences, what the sentences mean in a template, and what are the words that you need to specifically fit in here somewhere in the template, then yes, if you use it, it's your choice. But don't just blindly use it if you're not sure. I would suggest that instead follow a structure. Don't just follow a template. So there is a difference between a structure and a template. If you want to, yeah, structure would help you to save the time. So your structure would be that your introductory statement could begin with a specific choice of words, like this lecture was about, or this lecture discussed, or the lecturer spoke about, or the lecturer talked regarding. So you could have your own sort of opening sentences, and then you could have some connecting words that would help you to connect the sentences, and have a structure, structure in your mind that, okay, this is the way I'm going to use the points that I have. I'm going to place in this manner. I would start with saying that this lecture was regarding, or this lecture was about, the talk was about, or whatever your choice of words is. And then you can just link them by saying, firstly he said that, secondly he said that, or initially he said that, or he highlighted, or she highlighted, she mentioned, he mentioned, he concluded by saying that, she concluded by saying that, additionally she said that. So there are a lot of connecting words that you can use in the latter sentences. All you need is that you just need a good opening sentence, and that does not need to have a lot of words outside from the recording. I mean, a lot, your opening sentence does not need to have a lot of words. It could just be as simple as this lecture was about, and you can just start writing. The main point or the main idea is use as many words as possible from the recording itself. If you have a template that already has 35 words or 30 words, and if you are using that particular template and then filling words from the lecture, it doesn't make sense. Try to use as little words possible, or try to use as fewer words from your template, and try to use maximum words from the recording. So please remember this. Don't blindly follow a template. Okay, if you want to follow it, understand it thoroughly and make sure that it does not have a lot of words, because if you include a lot of words from the template, you will miss on the important or relevant points from the lecture. You might miss them. Okay, and there is a risk that if you miss relevant points, you might get a 0 in content that could lead to a 0 in the other traits, and the overall score out of 10 could be, you may get a 0 out of 10 for that particular task if you have not understood how to use it. So please keep this in mind. Strictly follow the word limit of 50 to 70 words. What happens, many people get confused with summarize written text. It is another task in the writing section. There you have to write a summary, but it's different. That summary has to be written. There's a different word limit for it. There is a different requirement for it. But for this task, please remember it's 50 to 70 words. Not less than 50, not more than 70. If you do that, you lose marks. Okay. Now, very, very important, save 2 to 3 minutes to check your grammar and spellings. This is really important. If you have written a very good summary, if you have mentioned all the key points, everything is perfect, the sentences, but if there are grammatical errors, or if there are errors related to spellings, you are in for trouble. You might, even after writing a very good summary, you might lose marks in spellings. So check your spellings. Now, one small thing that you can do for checking the spellings is, so what normally we do is, after we write a summary, we start reading the summary from the first word and read it thoroughly, the 6 or 7 sentences that we have written. We read it from start to end. Now, when you read from start to end, it's good when you're reading it to check your grammar, when you're reading to check the flow or the cohesion. It's good when you're reading to get the overall, that have whatever you have written, it makes sense. When you're checking all this and you read from top to bottom, it's very good. But when you're checking for spellings, I would suggest that don't read from top to bottom. That means don't read from the first word to the last word. Instead, read from the last word to the first word. Because when you read from the last word to the first word, you are not, your mind is not subconsciously working to create meaning. When you start reading from top down, even if you're checking spellings, somewhere down the line, your mind will start to create meanings. But if you're reading in the reverse order, the chances of spotting a spelling mistake are more. You can easily spot a spelling mistake reading in the reverse order, and you can do it more quickly. So follow this small tip to check your spellings. You can use this for essays. You can use this for all the writing tasks. You can use this for all the tasks where you have to type into, wherever you have to type. Use this. Check your spellings in a reverse order. Okay, so what I mean by reverse order is, if I have to read whatever is there on the screen, then I'll not start reading from the first word summarize. I'll start reading from the last word task, and then read task, the, for, time, given, the, all, use. So this way I'm reading individual words and looking at the spelling. And if there is an error, I spot it and I just change the spelling. I mean, write the correct spelling. And yes, if you're not sure about the spelling of a word, if you have a doubt, even if you have an iota of doubt that whatever I've written is incorrect, then don't write that word. In fact, change the word, write a synonym for it, or write something else. But don't write that word if you have a doubt about the spelling of the word. Okay, you can change the word if you want, but don't, make sure that you don't make a spelling mistake. This is really, really important for this task. Okay, so 5 key things that we talked about for this task that you need to remember is that for the content, you must have main and supporting ideas in a proper order to get a good score in content. Then if you're following a template, understand it and make sure that your template doesn't have a lot of words. And still, I recommend using a structure, not a template. Strictly follow the word limit. Save time to check your grammar and spelling. So please do a time-bound practice, that whenever you practice, always make sure that you check your grammar and your spellings. Okay. And last thing, use all the given time for the task. If you're given 10 minutes to perform this task, and if you perform this in say 8 minutes, and if you have 2 minutes remaining, these 2 minutes will not be transferred to the next task. It won't be transferred. So use those 2 minutes to check everything, to improvise, to make sure that everything is perfect. Try to make it perfect. Okay. So this was about the summarized spoken text. Now, how to practice this task? So whenever you're practicing this task at home, or whenever you're practicing this in a group or with friends, one thing that you need to develop, one ability that you need to develop, is you need to develop your own shorthand techniques, your own techniques of rapid note taking that are helpful for you. And you can share those techniques with your friend, or share those small the symbols that you use. So to try and become a more let's say try and master this shorthand. So that is one thing you have to work on. And whenever you are listening, make sure that after whenever you're practicing this particular task, once you have written the summary, go back and see that, listen to it, listen to the recording again, and just compare that. Have you really covered the main points and the supporting points in the correct order? Have you missed some main points or not? If you have done that, try not to repeat it in the next time. This is the way, this is the thing that you have to remember while practicing. Just don't keep on practicing. Say that today I did 50 summarized spoken text. Okay, you did 50 summarized spoken texts, but did you check that have you included main ideas in the first part of the summary for each and every summarized spoken text? If you have not done, then what is the point in doing 50 in a day? So make sure that you always, after you've written the summary, check that have you included the main points or not. And second important thing is that practice, whenever you're practicing, practice without a spell check. That means if you're using Word, practice in Note, where you don't get the where you don't get auto correction for your spelling. So otherwise, turn off your spell check and then practice, so that if you're making a spelling mistakes, you only check it at the end, that if are you making spelling mistakes or not, because spelling is very, very important for this task. So practice that. And one more thing is that if you identify that you're not able to capture the key points in a 90-second lecture, which is the normal length of a summarized spoken text, then what I would suggest is that what you can do is you break the lecture in 3 parts. That means you just listen to the first 30 seconds and write down whatever you have. You make the notes, then pause it, then listen to the next 30 seconds, and then listen to the next 30 seconds, and practice in this manner. And once you develop this habit, then go for 60 seconds and then go for 90 seconds. So what I mean is, if you listen to a 90-second lecture and you're not able to take down the main points, then first start by practicing a 30-second lecture. Once you're able to do that for a 30-second lecture, go for a 60-second lecture, and then eventually go for the 90-second lecture. So this is what you need to keep in mind when you're practicing. Turn off the spell check and develop your own note-taking shortcuts. And yes, make sure that after practice, you listen to the audio again. If you have a transcript of the audio, great, just read the transcript and see that have you included the main points in your summary or not. This is really, really important. All right. And again, you need to remember that this is a high priority task, or a task that contributes towards both your listening and writing scores, and this task really matters for your listening and writing scores. So if your listening and writing score is down, this could be one of the areas, one of the tasks where you might be making some mistake. Either you might not be getting the main ideas, or you might be missing on the main ideas, or you might be making some spelling errors, or you might be following some template which would not which would result in either a 0, or you might be losing a marks somewhere in the content part. Okay, so that was summarized spoken text. Now the next task in this section is the multiple choice, choose multiple answers. Now I want you to understand that the sequencing of all these tasks could change. It depends, but we are discussing in a general sequence that this is what you would expect. The test would start with a summarized spoken text, it would end with a write from dictation, and in between there could be a bit of juggle between the tasks, but more or less this is the sequence. So the next task that we are discussing here is multiple choice, choose multiple answer. Now this is how it would look on the screen. The task would, so you are listening, you would have your timer right at the top, then you would have some instructions, then you would have a box where the audio would play, or I mean it would show that the audio has begun and it has end with the bars, and then here you would have your questions and the options. So this is how it would be in the actual test. Okay, and now yes, remember, once you have finished your summarized spoken text, either there are 2 or 3, once you have finished that, your remaining time starts. And remember that this remaining time on the top would be for the entire test. I mean, whatever tasks are left after from this task to the last task, whatever this task to the last task, everything has to be finished in that given time. Okay, so now you listen to a recording, and After listening to the recording, you have to choose your answer. More than one answer can be correct. So how to go through this task? Before your audio begins, before the audio begins for the task, you have a few seconds, and in those few seconds you need to, now this is very, very important, that you use those few seconds to read and understand the question. This is very, very important, because you have to finish this task as quickly as possible. So following a certain pattern or following a certain method or a way of uh, going through this question is very important. So remember, before the audio begins, you spare time to read and understand the question. What does the question try to say? Is it asking for the main idea? Is it asking for the purpose of the talk? Is it asking for some detailed information? Or is there some inference that you have to draw from after listening to the audio? This all would help you listening, reading the question, and understanding it would help you to know that what are you supposed to listen during the recording. So before the recording begins, you already have an idea that what is the information that you have to extract from this particular recording. Skimming the options and becoming familiar with the text. So if there are a few options down the line, you just skim through them. Just don't try and read each and every one. You won't have the time for that. Just skim them so that you just get a general idea. You activate your schematic knowledge, and from whatever past experiences or past reading or listening that you have done to the top for the topic, you get a general idea that what you're going to, you are using your predicting, your knowledge of prediction, or your ability to predict, to basically get an idea that what you're going to listen to. So skimming those options and reading and understanding the question, this is really important. So if you have anyone who is facing particular problem in multiple choice choose multiple answers, there is a set of questions. The questions that are mostly the question mostly would be that what is the main purpose, or what is the main idea, or it would be asking for. So there is a certain type of questions, a particular type of questions that are repeated all the time. Just see that what are the type of questions. I'm not talking about the transcript. The transcript or the audio, the recording, it might change. The options, they might change, but the type of questions or the type of information that you are required to extract, is it the purpose or the main idea, or is it any specific information that keeps on. There are only a few type of questions. Either they would the question could ask you for the main idea, that is what is the general idea that you get, or it would ask you for a purpose of the talk, or it could ask you for some detailed information. So these are the 3 or 4 things that I've already written. This is what you have to. So for each and every type of question, you have to do a different kind of listening. When you're prepared, when you understood the question, you're prepared for that type of listening. So practice understanding the question, and then once you have understood the question, and once you know that what you have to listen for, it becomes much easy. Okay, so after the audio begins, so once you will have a few seconds to do all this before the audio begins, and once the audio begins, you need to stay focused and focus on the development of the ideas. Yeah, now I missed one point here, and that is that be prepared to take notes. Now this is an optional thing, note taking. Many people are comfortable by just listening, and then once they've listened everything, they try and remember the main points, and then just look at the options, and then just they've made a mental note, and then they just connect the options and see if the information matches, they select it or they eliminate it. So if you are comfortable in that way, by just remembering everything, remembering the key points, it's okay. But if you are comfortable taking down the notes, then you can take down the key points. Now, how note taking helps is all the information or all the options are not in the same order as the recording. So while recording, you can just look at the options and select the correct one. So in this case, when you are listening, do not read any options thoroughly. While listening, if you feel that you won't be able to remember everything, it's better you take down some keynotes or the keywords, write down the keywords. And while listening, when you're writing down the keywords, that writing should be more sort of mechanical writing. You're more focused on what is the speaker saying, what is the direction of the talk, and what is the main idea that he's sharing, what is the development of the ideas. You're more focused on that part. You're just the note making is just a mechanical thing that you're doing. You need to do it this way when you're listening. And it's okay if you miss some words, if you don't know the meaning of a few words, or if you don't have an idea about a certain words or phrases or even a sentence. It's okay. If you should be able to get the key points. All right. And yes, if you take down the notes, it will help you to remember. So there are two ways of doing this. Either listen to everything, and while listening, do not read anything. While listening, just focus on the information that you're looking for. And once the talk is over, you can use that information just from your memory. Or second way is you make down the notes. Note making is recommended. However, it is optional. So if you go for note making, just note down the key points. And once you've noted down the key points, you can use them when the audio is complete. Okay. Now, once the audio is completed, you just look at the notes and compare the notes with the options. So whichever options are have information that is not matching with the information that of what you have heard from the recording, just eliminate those and choose the correct ones. Now there will be check boxes. You just have to click. And once you have done that, confirm your choice by checking the options again. Now, if you have notes, it would be easier here. You just verify whatever you have done with the notes and make sure that, okay, everything seems in place. And one important thing here is that there is some negative marking here. So you really need to check your options. Okay, so this is the way you'll do before the audio begins. Read the question, understand it, and skim the options. Don't try to read the options at this moment. Focus more on understanding the question than looking at the options. Your focus before the audio is the question, understanding the question. Once you understand, if you have time, you skim through the options. But if you don't understand the question, read it again till you understand it. Okay. Once you have understood the question, you skim the options, and when the audio begins, you are just listening. You're just listening. You're not reading. You can make notes, or you may make notes, but listening and making notes is okay, but listening and reading, not suggested. Okay. And once the audio is over, choose the correct answer, eliminates anything that is incorrect, and move ahead. Now, there are certain important things that you need to remember for this particular task, and that is that the information that you will hear in the recording will not be exactly in the same order as the options. That means you might have heard a piece of information in the first part of the recording, but the option related to that could be the last option or the last but second option. So you need to keep this in mind, that the recording would not, the options and the recording, they're not in the same order. So you can't just listen and select or eliminate one information or make a decision about an option just while listening, because the order is incorrect. So either listen and try to remember the key points, or listen and make notes. Note making will definitely help in this case, because the options may not be in order, and it would be helpful there. Now, points are deducted for selecting incorrect options. Now, if you select an option that was actually not the correct option, if you selected that, you get a negative, you get a -1 or for that particular selection. So what I would suggest is that if you're not sure about an option, it's better not to select it as the answer. Only select something that you're very, very sure about, and then move to the next task. Okay. One more important thing, or I would say one common mistake that many people tend to do is that while listening, they just listen for a few words, or while making notes, just are focused on writing down some words, and then they try to match those words with the words in the options. Now, when you do this, what happens is that sometimes the words might match, but it does not match with the meaning. So it is better that when you're making notes, if your focus is listening and understanding, only then you would be able to choose the correct options. Just matching the words won't work. Okay, so remember this. There could be words that would be same, the words in the options, that the words would be there in the recording, but the meaning could be different. Okay, and finally, the last and most important tip for this task is that do not spend much time once the audio is over. Select whatever you want to select and click next, because the main work that you have to do is not after the recording is over. Whatever you have to do is before the talk or before the recording is over. That means before the recording begins, if you have read and understood the question, and while the recording is going on, or while you are listening to the recording, if at that point of time, if you have understood or the main points and the supporting ideas or the development of the ideas, you will definitely find the answer very quickly. So if you have not done that part properly, spending time just selecting the answer won't help you. So don't spend much time there. If you have understood and found the answer, okay. If you have not found it, select an option that you're very sure about and move to the next. Don't spend much time here. Okay, it won't, this task does not, in fact, anyways, it is not a high scoring task. Okay, and whenever you're practicing, so how to practice for this particular task is that if you want to understand that how the development of ideas is going on in a particular audio, then you need to listen to different kind of audios or podcasts, and after listening to that, so listen to short podcasts like 30 seconds or 60 seconds. Once you have listened to that, stop it and try to figure out what is the main message, or what is the speaker saying here, or what is the speaker trying to say here. They try to figure that out while you are practicing. And if you are not able to figure it out, go back and listen it again, and then again try to figure out. And after that, once you have listened to that topic, go and find out the vocabulary related to that particular topic. So for example, if you're listening to a talk related to, say, economics, and you're not able to understand that what is the what is the speaker trying to say here, or what is that where is the whole talk going, or what is the direction of the talk, or what is the meaning of what the speaker has said, then go and look for surrounding vocabulary related to that topic, related to economics. Read the words related to that topic and try to understand their meaning, and then listen to the audio again. And this would slowly develop your vocabulary for different topics. So this is very important thing you need to keep in mind. The next task is fill in the blanks or fill in the gaps. So for this particular task, you could have 2 or 3 of these in your actual test, and that it would look something like this on your screen. When you go for the test, you would have an instruction over here. Again, your timer, remember this timer, it is an overall timer for all the remaining tasks, remember that. And then you have the question audio, then you have the transcript, and in this transcript there are gaps, and you have to fill these gaps. So what is the method to go or perform this task? So again, before the audio begins, you need to quickly skim the text to get a general idea of the text. Now, there's a difference between reading everything and understanding each and every word, and there is a difference when you're just skimming to get a general idea. So when you're skimming, you're just quickly looking at the keywords or important nouns, and just trying to figure out that what this whole text is about, so that you're mentally prepared for the upcoming recording. Now you would have approximately 7 seconds, so it's not possible to read everything. So quickly skim the text, look if there are some familiar words that make you that help you to understand what this whole text is about. And then yes, it's also important to take a quick look at the placements of the blank, that where is each blank placed. That means I'll just change the slide and explain what I'm saying. So for example, here in this particular slide, you have 4 blanks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you look carefully, this blank number 3 and blank number 4 are in the same sentence. That means when you listen to the blank number 3 and type the word or write the word, and you need to be really attentive because the next blank is very close to this blank. So in those 7 seconds that you have, you're quickly skimming and looking at the words and also looking at the placement of the blank. That helps you to understand, that helps you to be in fact prepared for the next blank, mentally prepared. Yeah. So this is what you do before the audio begins. Just quickly skim, look at the placement of the blanks, and be prepared to listen to audio related to that. That would be actually the audio would contain it would be a complete transcript of whatever is there with, and the blanks are there in front of you. So you just be prepared, mentally prepared. Now, coming to the next part. So what happens when the audio begins? Now, once the audio begins, you either type or write the word as you hear and be ready for the next one. So here, type or write. If you choose to type, you practice in that way. If you choose to write, practice in that way, but don't mix and match. So one day you're practicing typing and one day you're practicing writing. No, just select one method and follow it. And yeah, I would any day recommend writing, because it is much easier to, you can, I mean, you don't need to individually write each word. Sometimes you can just scribble, and yeah, provided you're able to understand what you have scribbled. And so I would prefer writing. And while you're writing and listening at the same time, at that moment, please don't check your spellings. Please just don't even focus, or even just don't try to think about the spellings, because if you think, and in that moment, you might miss the train. Okay. So when the audio begins, type or write the words as you hear. And the main idea is to practice matching the return form of the word to the sound. That means that this is what you do here. Okay. So at this moment, you don't check the spellings, the important thing. Now, once the audio is complete, ensure that each word makes sense and check spelling for each blank. Incorrect spelling will score 0 for that blank. Now, what this means is that once you have completed writing the word, make sure that you read the whole transcript again. Quickly read it and see that whatever you return, it makes sense. So when you read this, or when you check this for the second time, you might have if you have used a incorrect verb form, or if you have used, if a singular word has been written where a plural word had to be written, then you could make those changes just based on your knowledge of grammar and sentence structuring. So make sure that you read it, give some time to quickly read it, and definitely you have to check your spellings. And one small tip, sometimes you don't know the sound, you don't know the spelling of a particular word, but if you have captured the word, write down the spelling that you feel is correct. Don't leave the blank. Don't leave it, because there is no negative marking here. So do not leave any blank. Write down whatever you feel that you heard. Okay. And if you completely missed it, then try to figure out what word could fit in here and write down that word, but don't leave it. But again, do this quickly. Okay, now some important tips for this task. The recording is only played once. So do not spelling while listening. So you don't have to focus on the spellings when you're listening at that moment. You're just focused on listening and quickly scribbling you're practically scribbling down the words. Okay. And yes, the next task does not begin until you click next. So what I mean here is that once you've scribbled everything, the audio is over, you quickly type in the words, check the spellings, read once to say that everything makes sense. If you have not figured out, if you have not heard anything, don't leave any blank unattended. Try to write whatever you feel should be the correct answer there, and then click next. You have to do everything, all this, as quickly as possible. You get one score, one point for each correct blank. So you would have 2 or 3 of these tasks, so that would be around, say, 15 or 10 to 15 points towards your listening and writing. So make sure that you don't leave any blank and avoid spelling mistakes. Yeah. So what you can do is you can even you can just find out that what are the common spelling mistakes that you're making, and make sure that you don't repeat them. And yes, one important thing, sometimes, now this is very rare, and if you're very lucky, it could happen, is that the word that you're looking for, it might be there somewhere in the transcript. It might be there in that written passage in front of you. It might be there in that fill in the blanks script. If you're very lucky, you might find that word somewhere. So you can check the spelling in that case if you're not sure about. But most cases, please practice. Now, moving to the next task, that is highlight the correct summary. Now, again, in this task, remember the timer. This is the overall timer. Have a quick look here, and the instructions, the audio box, where the audio, when the audio begins, it indicates. When the audio ends, it indicates here. And then you have the volume bar, which you can increase or decrease. And then here you have your options. So this is how it would be on your screen when you give the test. What to do for this particular task. So before the audio begins, you have 10 seconds. In those 10 seconds, skim the 4 summaries quickly. Now, do not read thoroughly. You won't have the time to read thoroughly, because that would be like 250, 260 words. You won't be able to read everything in 10 minutes. You might be able to read one, and you're finished and you might be confused. Better just skim it. Just look for some familiar words. So if you look at this particular question here, you see some words like recent, research, customers, dissatisfied, service, products, company, complaint, negative experience, company, initial complaint, dissatisfied customers, negative experience, retail experience, customers, company, experience, negative, avoids the store. So 100 customers. So when you read all this quickly, you can do that in, say, 10 seconds. You get an idea that you're going to listen to a recording that has something to do with customer experience, that has to do something with service and products and retail experience. So basically it's a talk about customer experience in some sort of in some company or in some companies. So this is what you're going to listen to. You get an idea if you quickly skim these summaries. And here again, you be prepared to take notes. So take down the key points before, during the audio, so that you can finally compare them to get the answer. So now what happens, or what you should do once the audio begins? Once the audio begins, you are listening to get the main ideas and the supporting ideas. Similar to what we discussed in summarize the spoken text, you're listening for the main ideas and the supporting ideas. Now you just need to write down some key markers or key points or key ideas that have been said in the text or the opinion. And yes, your shorthand that I told you that we talked about in the summarized spoken text, if you develop your own shorthand, it will be very helpful here. Okay. And stay focused on listening be aware of the development of ideas here. Again, your focus is on listening. Your focus is not on what you are writing. That is a mechanical process. You're more focused on listening to what is being said. And while you're listening, please no reading. Do not read the summary while listening. Please do not read the summary. I repeat, do not read the summary while listening. Just focus on the development of the ideas, where everything is going or what is the direction of the talk. You might or you may take notes when you're taking the notes just for the key points, but your focus is on the audio. Your complete focus is on the audio. Okay, and once that is done, use the notes that you have, or use whatever you have listened and whatever you understood. Use that key points or main points that you've understood to compare with the summary, and eliminate the incorrect summaries and choose the correct one. And then at last, make sure that you recheck everything. Now, all this, once the audio is completed, try to do this part as quickly as possible. Be very quick, because if you have skimmed and understood that what you have to listen to, if you have listened and got the main ideas, made notes, then you don't need to spare much time finding the right answer. It could be done very quickly. Okay, so don't waste your time if you have not listened to the audio properly. No point spending your time here. You would be spending a lot of time, and you just get 1 point if you choose a correct answer for us. If you choose the correct summary, you're just getting 1 point towards your actual listening score. And reading, and then again comparing it with the notes, and it's a very time-taking process. So if you spend too much time over here, you might miss on the important tasks at the end. You might miss on write from dictation or highlight incorrect words, which are actually the tasks that give you the score. So if you are not sure, select something and move ahead. Okay, don't waste time. If you have not listened properly, if you have not understood the development of ideas, then don't waste time after the audio is over. Okay, so key or important tips: do not read the options while listening, as we discussed. While you're listening, just listen. If you're making notes, it's okay, but do not read. Once you have finished listening, once you have finished the note making process, then choose the options. While selecting the correct summary, make sure that you match it with the meaning and not just the words, because if you observe, or if you have done practice questions, or if you have given a test, you will see that many of the words in the summaries, they repeat, or they are similar, or sometimes the entire sentences would be similar in the summaries. But you have to go and look for the meaning, match the meaning, and find the correct answer. And yes, lastly, do not spend much time once the audio is over. This task does not contribute much to your overall listening score. So in fact, it is a lengthy task, but contributes little. So in fact, you can say that it is here just to, I would say, it's a filler. You can call it a filler task. It's just filling the time, checking, how smart you are at avoiding this filler task and moving ahead to the really important task. Okay, now comes the next task, that is again multiple choice, choose single answer. Again, you can call it a type of filler task, because you just get 1 credit point if you choose the correct answer. So instead of spending much time on this task, I would suggest that you follow a certain method and try to find the answer as quickly as possible. So in all these tasks that we discussed till now, be it summarize spoken text, or be it highlight the correct summary, or be it fill in the not fill in the blanks, but multiple choice, multiple answers, and even multiple choice, choose single answer. For all these tasks, your main focus, or your main you get the answer while listening. If you're not while listening, if you have not done what is required, then after that it's very difficult to find the correct answer. So your main focus should be to be attentive or be more focused or be completely aware while listening. And once the listening is over, you're just relaxed, find the answer, select it and click next. And once you click next, again become focused and target to get the answer. So this is the structure, or this is the way the screen would be with the timer, the again the remaining timer, the instructions, the audio box, the options, and here you have radio buttons that tell you that this is only one option is correct, only one response is correct. So you have the radio button over here. So just select one and click next. Now, how to perform this task? Again, as we discussed in multiple choice questions, read and understand the questions. The question. If you don't read and understand the question, no point in, I mean, after that, it's very difficult for you to find the correct answer, because once the audio recording is over, and then if you look at the question and then, oh, what was I supposed to, was this information there in the recording? Oh, I didn't find it. And then you're confused. So better that read the question, understand it, try to become familiar with as many questions for multiple choice answers, multiple choice questions that you have in listening. Try to become familiar that what are the type of questions you generally get, like main idea, purpose of the talk, detailed information. What are the type of questions? Just look at a lot of multiple choice questions. Just look at the questions and see what are the type of questions that you get, so that you're not caught unaware during your exam. Okay. Skim the options. Again, if you have time before the audio begins, skim the options and try to find the correct, try to get an idea of what the text is, what the recording is going to be about. Okay, now once the recording begins, again, stay focused and be aware of the development of ideas. Okay, here note making is not as essential, because only one response is correct. If you're very attentive, if you have understood what the whole audio is about, it would be easy for you to find the answer. So it works in this way. Before the audio begins, you're reading the question, understanding the question, skimming the options, just trying to figure out what you have to listen to. That means being prepared for listening. Once the recording begins, from that in that moment, you're just focusing on listening for that particular information that you have to listen to, focusing on the development of ideas, and if required, making notes. At that moment, you're not looking at the options. Okay, and once the recording is over, the information that you have extracted from the recording, just use that to select the answers. But while doing this, be as quick as possible. And don't forget to recheck the options. Okay, now again, important tip, select, it would be more or less similar to the multiple choice. Select the option that matches with the meaning, not just the words. Again, remember, there would be words in the audio that could be a part of your options, but that could not be the correct answer, or that would not be the correct answer. So listen for the meaning instead of just listening for the words. Okay, and do not spend much time once the audio is over. Okay, so this is what we already discussed. Before the audio begins, understand the question, try to focus what you have to listen to. During the audio, just listen and focus, try to extract as much information as possible, see where the flow of the whole talk is going. Once the audio is over, select, move ahead, select, move ahead. That's it. Okay, so again, only one point is contributed. It's the same kind of, or say again, this is also a filler task. Does not contribute much to your overall listening, but then you can't ignore all these tasks, because combined, if you look, like you have 2 to 3 highlight correct summaries, 2 to 3 multiple choice questions, single answer, 2 to 3 multiple choice, multiple answer, 2 to 3 select missing words. So for these tasks, what you actually do is you follow this method that we are discussing and find the answer, move ahead. Don't waste much time over here, but don't completely ignore them. Okay, try practicing them. Okay, so again, the screen is more or less similar that what we have seen. A common timer, the instruction panel, the audio panel, and the options. Okay, now here the only thing different is here you do not have a question, but you need to figure out what you're going to listen to from the instructions. So here the instruction, if you see, is that you will hear a recording about medicine. So you need to know that the recording is going to be about medicine, and the last word or the group of words has been replaced by a beep. So again, the method is read the instructions and skim the options. As we discussed in the instructions, you might find that what you have to listen to, or what type of talk you're going to listen to, or on what topic you're going to listen to. And now when the audio begins, here do not make notes in this task. Instead, make a mental map of what you're listening. So in this task, you're not doing anything, you're just listening to everything, listening for meaning, listening for signal words, trying to understand the direction of the task. You're staying focused. So your complete focus is only on listening. And remember that the last phrase of the last word would be replaced by a beep. So you should be aware about the bar, and when when the recording is about to end, you need to be prepared for it. Now once the audio is completed, if you have listened properly, if you have understood everything, if you have followed the signal words, you just need to think of what would be the probable word that would come next, and then you scan the options. So what you do is you listen, and when there is a beep, you just think what could be the next word, and then you look at the options. Just don't look at as soon as it's finished, don't start looking at the options. Just for a moment think what could be the answer, then look at the options. It would be there in the options, or a similar word would be there in the options, or a similar phrase would be there in the options. Okay, so now again, important tip is to be aware of the blue bar in the audio status box to be ready to suggest the word. Okay, so it could be a blue or whatever, I'm not sure about the color. Yeah, it's just a blue bar. And so here you need to be aware that when it is going to end and when it is about to end, do not look at the option first. Just try to think what is this, what is an appropriate word, or what is an appropriate phrase that would follow these recording, and then look and select your answer and move to the next question. Do not spend much time once the audio is over. So you see there are many tasks in this section where you do not have to spend much time. Now the second but last is you need to highlight the incorrect words. So what happens here is there will be some words that will be different. Some words in the transcript or the text here would be different from what you are listening to. So whatever you're listening to would have the correct words, and some words here would be incorrect. That means the word here, northwest, could be southwest in the recording, or it could be something else. I mean, a different word from what you listen to is written. So what you have to do is you have to identify the incorrect ones, click on them, select them. Now this is a task where you can really score. If you practice, you can really score 100% marks here, and it's not that difficult to score 100% marks, and really contributes to your overall score. So in fact, I would say that this is your scoring area. You need to make sure that you do not miss even a single point or a single mark here. The only thing that you just need to be aware about is that you don't select something that is not an incorrect word. You do not select a word that is not incorrect, because there is negative scoring here. So you just need to be aware about the negative scoring. Otherwise, this is a task where you can really score 100%. So how to score 100%? Simple. Skim the transcript to be familiarized to familiarize yourself with the topic. I mean, before the audio begins, just quickly skim. You will have a few seconds. You skim the transcript to know that, okay, what am I going to listen about? And then you quickly move the cursor to the first word of the transcript and be ready. So it would be like this. You're ready. with the cursor over here on the first word, and the audio is beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, start. So when the audio starts, you are there on the first word. So this is what you have to do. Then once the audio begins, move your cursor along each line following the speaker voice. So you're following the speaker's voice and moving along with that. And this is something that most of you would be doing. If you're not doing, start doing this. Move your cursor along each line following the speaker's voice. Now, this is something that you need to practice, and this is that think how each word you're reading would sound as soon as you hear a different sound. Click on the incorrect word. That means, what I mean here is that when you're reading this particular text, say when explorer Roald Amundsen set out to find the Northwest pasture, his official mission was scientific. So when you're reading this, I mean, obviously you're not reading aloud, but when you're reading this, just focus on that. So you would be reading just a moment before the audio. So when the audio is on the word official, you're just here between official, and you're just having a quick glance at the next word and just thinking that how mission, okay, it's pronounced as mission. So it's there in your mind, okay? So when the word that you read, the next word, how is that next word pronounced? Just think about it, that how do we pronounce the next word? And if you listen to something different from that pronunciation, click that word. That is what you have to practice. Now here, once the audio is completed, you can't do anything, because the success here in this task matters on real-time decision. So you do not change your mind until you're very sure that you made a mistake. Okay, so what is the point here is that once you have selected the words, after that, do not go and change the selection until you're very, very sure, because here you have negative scoring. So do not do anything. Now, no guesswork, please. No guesswork in this task. Be really attentive. Try to score 100%. And you need to remember that points are deducted for selecting the words that are actually correct as per the recording. So you make sure that you don't do that selection. And while the audio is going on, do not stop to think about your selection. So when you're listening, do not stop to think that if you heard that this is an incorrect word, just select it and keep up with the speaker, or you may miss the rest of the words. And do not spend much time once the audio is over. Practically, there is nothing to do once the audio is over. Just read, make sure that whatever you selected, if it makes sense, move to the next task. No point being there and spending any time. Okay, now practice. You need to practice a lot for this task. If you're facing any particular difficulty in this task, practice it, because this is a task. If you master it, you can score 100% every time. Okay, now the last task, and I would say the most important task of the listening section, because it contributes a lot to your listening and a lot to your writing scores. Now, the screen, by now you would become familiar with the screen. This is the timer. Here you have to be really attentive, see that how much time you have and how many tasks. Now you could have 3 or 4 of these right from dictations. So if you just have 1 minute left over here and you're going to do, you have to do 3 or 4. You have to be really quick. So make sure that you have a look over the timer and ensure that you have enough time for this task. Okay, now the question audio, it just begins. You have very few seconds, in fact practically no time. You just have enough time to be ready with your pen and notepad. That's it. And this is the box where you type the answer, you get the word count. Okay, so it's a simple screen. So now there are two methods for write from dictation, and there could be many more, but specific 2 methods that I have been following. I mean, not I have been following the second method, but some of my students have followed the first method and they have got the result from that. So I will be discussing both the methods. And so before the audio begins, all you need to do is you need to be ready with your pen and paper, I mean the erasable notepad. And now if you prefer to type, place your cursor in the box on the screen and be ready. You don't want to be caught unaware. Just see that okay, everything is functioning well. But still I would prefer writing. But if you are good at typing, if you prefer typing, your choice. Now, so what is the first method? So once the audio begins, in the first method, you write down the content words. So content words means the nouns, the verbs, adjectives, adverbs. These are the content words, words that make meaning or make a point in that particular sentence. Write down those words when you're listening, and now write as quickly as possible without thinking about the spelling at this point. So this is one method. You listen to a sentence, while listening you write down the main points. So if this is your sentence, so be prepared to write this sentence on your notepad. If you listen to this audio, you just write down that prepared, write, sentence, notepad. These are the key words: prepared, write, sentence, notepad. And then these are the content words that you try to figure out or write down. This is the first way. And at that moment when you're writing, you're not checking for the spelling, you're not thinking what you're writing, you're just listening and writing. So in all the listening tasks, I'll again say, whenever you are listening and writing, I would always suggest that your main focus should be on listening and not on writing. The writing should be more in a mechanical way, not focusing on the spelling. So whenever you are writing while listening, do not focus on the spelling at that moment. This is for all the tasks. And while you're writing, your main focus should be on trying and understanding what you're listening to. Now, once the recording is complete, improvise the sentence, or I would say fill in the words that you still remember. It is still fresh in your mind. You fill in the words. And then finally, last, go over the sentence. Use your knowledge of grammar, word form, and word order to add any words that you might have or you may have missed. Now, this is the first method. Essentially, you listen to the sentence. While listening, your still focus is on listening, but you're writing down the content words. Once it is over, still the sentence is fresh in your mind. You fill in with the remaining words or the words that club the sentence, and finally you just improvise, checking the grammar and the structure and word form and stuff. Okay, so that is the first method. And now I'm discussing the second method, or the method that I recommend or I follow. And this is a simple method. What you would do is you have your pen in your hand. You're not writing anything while listening, but you have your pen in your hand. You close your eyes and focus only on actively listening to the sentence. Now, what I mean by actively listening to the sentence means you're listening to understand what the person is trying to say. You're listening as if some instruction is going to be given to you, and it is an important instruction, and you have to understand it in order to follow it, because it is important for you. You have to listen to with that importance. You have to it is a matter of just believe me, this if you have to consider this, that if you don't listen or understand this instruction, then you won't be able to get your desired score in PT. You won't be able to get that. So you have to listen to that sentence with a certain level of focus and attention, keeping in mind that I have to understand this instruction, because if I do that, I'm getting my desired score. If I don't do that, I'm not getting my desired score. So that is what actively listening is. 100% focus on understanding the message. So you're focusing on the stress on words, you're focusing on rhythm, you're focusing on how the way the sentence has been spoken, you're just not focusing on the words, just not on the words, but the way it has been said, the stress on the words, the pronunciation, the message that is being that the speaker is trying to give, everything you're focusing on. So you just close your eyes and focus there. That's it, nothing else while listening. Now, as soon as the recording is over, you quickly repeat that sentence. You repeat it as if you are doing in the repeat sentence task. You repeat that sentence. And while you are repeating the sentence, you quickly write down the first letter of every word that you speak. So if this is your sentence, close your eyes and focus only on actively listening. So if this would have been your sentence, so what you're doing is you listen to the sentence, and once you have listened, and when you're repeating this sentence, when you're saying, close your eyes and focus only on actively listening, you're writing down the first letter. You're writing down C when you say close. You're writing down Y when you say your. You're writing down E when you say eyes. You're writing down A when you say and. You're writing down F when you say focus. So this is the way you're writing down the first letter. So you listen to the sentence, you repeat it. While repeating, write down the first letter. Then once that is done, again repeat the sentence and then try to fill out the words. This has proved to be really helpful to many people to get a good score. So try to follow this. This is a really effective method, and to do some practice with the method, and it would help you if you're missing out some words in this particular task. Okay, now you need to remember one more thing here is, so if you have words like and, if you have words like the words that end with an S, if you're confused that should it be word or words, what you can do is when you're writing and, just don't write a, write down make the symbol of and. Okay, if you're writing two, then the shorter words like two, you can write down the complete word while repeating the sentence. So I'll just repeat what the method is. You close your eyes, focus on actively listening to the sentence, listening as if this sentence is the key to getting your desired score, listening in that way. And once you listen, try to repeat that sentence. And when you're repeating, you're writing down while repeating, you're writing down the first letter of each word that you're speaking. So a word that comes out of your mouth, you write down the first letter of that word. And if it is a very short word, you can write down the word itself. If it is a word like say an or the, you can just write down that complete word, or you can have your own symbols for that particular words. Okay, and finally you repeat the sentence again and then fill out the complete words. Remember, first word should have the first letter of the first word, it should be capital, there should be a full stop. So focus, remember all these things also while writing the sentence. Now, important tips for this task is focus on the meaning of the sentence. This would help you to remember the sentence. Now, this really works. You have to actively focus and try and understand. You have to listen as if you really have to understand it anyhow. If you listen it with that intensity and trying to understand what is the message that is being sent across to you, and you will definitely be able to remember it with more ease. So try to remember the meaning, check the spelling of every word, check verb endings and plurals. So spelling, if it is not spelled correctly, you won't get the marks for this. If the word now if the verb endings, so you check for, so if the what we say, if the word is say go, so was it go, was it gone, was it going, what was the word? Just try to see that, was it do, is it doing, does. So all these things you need to keep in mind for the verbs, and you just need to see whether the sentence, whether the word was singular or whether it was plural. So whether the word was book, or whether the word was books, or was it a pen, or was it pens, what is it, computer, was it computers. You need to keep that in mind, because your marks are deducted if you make a mistake over there. And the final thing, practice and more practice. That is the only way you go through this task. So now a quick summary and a quick important thing that I would like to discuss about time management before I take up any questions. So we discussed all the 8 type of tasks and how to perform each task and what is the method for each task. But after telling you all this, I need to tell you one thing, that this task has a lot to do with time management. If you're very effective at time management, it would be easier for you to ace in this particular section. Now, if you look at this, the total time for the listening part is say 45 to 57 minutes. That is the entire section. So it is a long time sitting and listening to 14 or maybe 14 to 21. It's not fixed depending on what test you get. It could be 14, 15, 16. So on an average, say 17 to 18 audios we are listening in an approximately in a time of 50 minutes. So it's a long time you're listening and then performing different tasks. So it's a tiring activity. So you need to be mentally prepared for this. You need to try and get a practice of this. Try and be in a setup. So either you are at home or you wherever you are practicing, just make sure that you're able to sit for 40-50 minutes, listen to different recordings and perform different type of tasks. You need to be mentally prepared for it, because there are many tasks that need you to be, in fact most of all the tasks need you to be focused while listening. So to be focused while listening, you will have to be mentally prepared for that. Okay, then another important thing for time management: summarized spoken text is individually timed and other task types are not individually timed. So you have 8 tasks in total. Out of those 8 tasks, one task, and that is summarized spoken text, that is individually timed. That means it has its own timer. Apart from that, none of the task has its own timer. So if you look at it in this way, you need to be sure that once your summarized spoken text is complete, once your summarized spoken text is over, the time that is remaining is the time remaining to complete the other 7 tasks. So you need to be aware about this. So the practice that you do, it should be time bound. Now, another thing, each recording is played only once. So don't spend more than 30. So once you finish the recording or once the recording is over, don't spend more than 30 seconds. Try to find out the answer in 30 seconds and move to the next question. So you would have to be quick enough, and at the same time you'll have to be meticulous. You'll have to be a combination of both of this. You'll have to combine both of these things, and during that 45 to 50 minutes that you have, you'll have to be really attentive, focused, and you would also have to be quick enough during that time. And do not miss write from dictation. Do not miss write from dictation. It is very, very, very important. Okay, every word carries a point, or every word carries a score point. So if you do an entire task of highlight, correct, summary, and if you find the right answer, there is 1 point for that. And the time that you take to do that whole task, it is a lot compared to what you take to write one or to perform one write from dictation. But here each word has 1 point. So just see the difference. You perform the complete highlight, correct, summary task, and you just get 1 correct. For the correct answer, you just get 1 point, whereas you complete the whole write from dictation, and if there are 10 words, there are 10 points. Now this would hardly take, the recording is hardly 5 seconds, and then writing is hardly another 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds, not more than 30 seconds. The complete task is not more than 30 seconds, whereas highlight, correct, summary, if you after the recording, if you keep on reading and then thinking a lot, you might spend 2-3 minutes, and the score is not much. So there are many other tasks like that. So don't spend much time over there, as we discussed for each task. Remember that. Okay. And now about this is the last thing that I will discuss, and that is about how to practice. This is very, very important. if you have all the techniques, if you have the correct techniques with you, you have been practicing from a long time, and you might have given multiple attempts. Someone would have given 2 or 3 or 4 attempts but have not got the desired score. This is very, very important for them. This is very, very important for them. They have to understand this. You have to understand this. And anyone who is giving the test for the first time or who is planning to give the test, you also need to understand this. You need to have a task-based approach. So what I mean by a task-based approach is that instead of practicing the entire listening section at a time, that means doing those 7 or 8 tasks every day, I would suggest that take one task at a time, practice it, understand the method of it. Once you have understood the method, like we discussed the method for each task, practice that task with that method and make sure that you become completely aware about the method, and subconsciously then you start using or approaching that task or performing that particular task in the same method. Once you have done that, and then then once you have mastered that, after that you take the other task. So do task-based practice. Once you do say, for example, if you take write from dictation, follow the method that we have discussed, any method that suits you out of the method 1 and method 2. Do a lot of practice for that particular task. Once you become comfortable with the way of the task, and you do move to the next task. That is the way you should approach. And this point again is very, very important. Same related to task-based approach is that once you pick up a task, you need to evaluate yourself on a scale of 90, I'm sorry, for each task. So what I mean by evaluating yourself on a scale of 90 for each task is that, say, for example, if you do, say, one summarized spoken text, and one summarized spoken text has 10 points in total. So when you do one summarized spoken text, when you check it and you score yourself out of the 10, after doing that, you do 9 more summarized spoken texts. So in total, you're getting scored out of 90. So I think I didn't explain it properly. So what I'm saying is, one summarized spoken text has 10 points: 2 for content, 2 for vocabulary, 2 for grammar, 2 for the spelling, and 2 for the word count. So that is the 10 points. So practice one summarize, or in fact, write a summary, do one task of summarized spoken text. Once you have done it, check yourself for all the parameters, give yourself a score out of 10. Once you have done that, go and do another summarized spoken text. Do 9 of these. Okay. When you do 9 of these, after that, you'll know that where you exactly stand out of 90. Because if one task, if one carries, say, if one of these carries, say, 10 marks, and when you're doing 90, so this means that when you're doing 9, the overall is 90. Now, if your target in the actual exam is, say, 65, then you need to see that when you have done 9 tasks and you score yourself out of 90, are you able to get a 65 for this particular task? That means for summarized spoken text in particular. That is the way you have to see. If you want to get 79, are you able to get 79 for summarized spoken text in particular? If your target is, say, 90, are you getting a 90 for summarized spoken text in particular? So that is the way you will have to evaluate yourself for each task. So this is what I mean when I say that when I say that your approach should be task-based approach. That means if you pick up a write from dictation, so each write from dictation on average would have 10 words. So do 9 write from dictations in one single sitting. Sit and do 9 write from dictations. So if there are, say, average 90 words, see how many words you're getting correct. Are you getting more than 79 words correct? If you're getting more than 79 words correct, then you can think of scoring a 79 plus. So this is the way you have to evaluate yourself on a scale of 90 for each task. Do this for all the tasks. Do this for all the tasks and see that what is the score that you're getting out of 90 for that particular task. Because if you want to get an overall score of 79, you have to get a score of 79 in each task. in all the 20 tasks of PTE. So if you're talking about, you want to get a score of, if you're talking about listening section, check your score out of 90 for each task of the listening section. Once you do that, you would be able to know that what or which task is where you're not performing good, and which is the task where you're performing really good. You will be able to identify your weakness and your strength. So someone could be really good at summarized spoken text, but you might not be good at write from dictation. When you sorry. So when you score yourself out of 90 for write from dictation, you would know, or you would realize that, okay, you were able to only manage 80 words out of 90, or you were only able to manage 75 words out of 90, and your actual target is 79. So in that case, you need to work hard for that particular task and not for the other task. So this is how you need to identify what is your weakness and what is your strength, and focus accordingly. Otherwise, if you keep on giving multiple attempts of the test, just hoping that someday I'll get my desired score, it's not going to work like that. You have to evaluate yourself for each task out of 90, identify the task where you're not scoring your desired score, and practice those tasks in particular. And if you are still not able to improve on those tasks, then yes, there are definitely methods or activities that can be done to improve certain skills of the certain core sub skills of listening, core sub skills of speaking, core sub skills of writing. All this can be developed, but for that you need to identify that what are your weakness. Is your weakness in write from dictation? Is your weakness in repeat sentence? You need to identify that. Now, once you have identified that what your weakness is, after that, you need to start small and then grow. So what I mean by start small and grow is that for example, if write from dictation is your weakness and you're not able to score good in write from dictation, so what you need to do is if you are doing sentences with 10 words, start by doing sentences with 8 words or 6 words. Start by doing something that you're comfortable with, and then add 1 word, or then slowly go for the longer sentences. If you're having a particular problem in, say, summarize a spoken text, if you're not able to capture the main ideas in summarized spoken text, so then don't listen to lectures that are 90 seconds long. First, start with lectures that are 30 seconds long. Try to make sure that you are able to do or perform good in those lectures, and then listen to the lectures and then grow. Then listen to the lectures that are 60 seconds long, then listen to the lectures that are 90 seconds long. That is the way you grow. That is the way you grow when you have a weakness in one particular task, or having a particular difficulty in, say, highlight incorrect words. Then you just try to first, how you start small and grow is that you just keep in mind that I just have to capture the first 2 words. The first 2 words I'll capture. That's my aim. That's my target. And then you go and do that. Okay. And then you slowly see, once you become good at that, then you start challenging yourself, going for 3 words or 4 words. Okay. So that is the way it should be done. That is the correct way of doing it. Task-based approach, picking up one task at a time and evaluating, checking that are you really good, understanding the method of that. So first you need to understand the method, apply that method, and then you need to check or evaluate yourself for that how good you are in that particular task. After that, you need to identify these tasks where you are weak. You need to identify your weaknesses and then start small and grow. Now here, when you start small and grow, when I say, you need to aware about this thing, that is, you have to choose the correct difficulty level. So if you're doing write from dictation and are not able to capture all the words, all the 10 words. So, and when I say that you start small, so pick up sentences that are shorter and then start for them, and then go for and grow slowly towards the longer sentences. Here you need to remember one thing, that whatever you listen to or whatever questions that you start practicing, you must choose the correct difficulty level. So what I mean by correct difficulty level is, do not choose something that is very easy for you. Do not choose something that is really, really easy for you. And do not also choose something that is very hard for you. If you're not able to do 10 sentences or in a write from dictation, sorry, 10 words, sentences that have 10 words, and if you're not able to do those sentences and you start doing sentences that have 12 words, just increasing the difficulty level, that it doesn't work that way. You have to grow towards that level. If you are comfortably doing words that have 10 sentences that have 10 words, then go for sentences with 12 words. If you're not doing sentences with 10 words comfortably, go for sentences with 8 words. If you're not comfortable with 8 words, go for 6 words. So that is how you choose your difficulty level. Don't choose something very easy, don't choose something very difficult. And then whenever you practice any task, do time bound practice. So if you're doing summarized spoken text, do in the given time. If you're doing, say, highlight correct summary, make sure that you're trying to find the answer within 30 seconds. That is the way you should do. And last final thing is that you need to enhance your academic vocabulary. So if you're facing any particular problem in try to get as much as academic words, academic collocations, try to become familiar with that. That is the way you should go for the practice. Try to capture as many words as possible, academic words, because most of this test, it's PTE academic. So the audios that you listen to would more or less be academic in nature. They would be informative or descriptive about certain things. So make sure that you improve your vocabulary, improve your academic vocabulary. So you can find that a lot of vocabulary, there's an official academic collocation by PT. Try to follow that. And for all this practice, you have a lot of questions on PTE tutorials. You have a lot of questions on that on the mobile phone application, on the website. Try to practice from there to get your desired scores. So this is all about the listening section, and I have tried my best to explain as much as possible. And now we are ready to take the question and answer session. Someone has asked, will we get a physical notepad with a pen? Roy has asked that, will we get a physical notepad with pen? Yes, you will get a physical notepad with pen, and that it would be an erasable notepad. It's like a plastic notepad with a marker sort of pen, but you would be able to do it. Pretty is saying that I did not get my marks in writing and listening. Okay, so you need to practice the tasks that contribute to your writing and listening scores, such as write from dictation, summarize spoken text. You need to practice this task, and also look at tasks that contribute specifically to writing and listening scores. Even make sure that you practice. And one important thing that I discussed here, try to do that, and that is, take one task, score yourself out of 90 for that particular task, and see that are you getting your desired score in that task. If you're not getting, that is the task where you're having a problem. Okay, so try to do that. And Yash Patel says, I'm not sure about, like city or cities, can I write both words because there is no negative marking in write from dictation? Yes, Yash, there is no negative marking in write from dictation, so you can try to do that. Many people are already doing that, but I would still suggest that try to get the correct answer, the correct word, I'm sorry. Yeah, and that would be the best thing. Now Hemendra asked that, okay, there was a question from Hemendra that I'm a student of Gujarati medium. That means I've not studied in English medium, and how can I get good score? So you need to practice, and I would suggest that if you have if you are facing a lot of problems in say a particular section, I would suggest that if you are not very sure, or if you're not very if you're not well acquainted with I would say the English language, then I would suggest is that please first work on some of the core language development skills or the core skills for each type of sections. Like for listening, reading, you have some core skills. Try to work on that, and if possible, take Sunil asked that which are the negative scoring topics or sections. So Sunil, negative scoring, you have negative scoring in highlight incorrect words and multiple choice, choose multiple answer. You have a negative scoring in those tasks. Yeah. Okay, Vijay asked the same question, so I've already replied to that. You do not have a no negative scoring in summarized spoken text, no negative scoring in fill in the blanks, no negative scoring in multiple choice, single answer, no negative, select missing word, nothing negative over there. Write from dictation, no negative, only negative multiple choice, multiple answer, and highlight incorrect words. Okay, Vishal Kumar has asked that each word contains points. This is for form, content, grammar, etc. Okay, so Vishal, when I'm talking about write from dictation, for write from dictation, you do not, I mean, there is no specific, all the points, they go towards your communicative skills. Dharmendra says that there is so much distraction in the examination hall. Dharmendra, you have to practice in that sort of environment and try to get the feel of the whole thing. Okay, now Kal says technique of MCQ, multiple listening, same as MCQ reading. Would please summarize the techniques quickly? Thanks. Kal, we discussed for multiple choice in same. For any multiple choice question, you need to read the question carefully first, understand before the audio begins. Try and understand the question so that you know what you have to listen. And while listening, you can make down notes. Now you don't do this thing when you're for the reading section, but here, because you listen to the audio once, take down notes. Sunil again asks what are the main topics in every section that is more scoring marks which need to be focused. Okay, now I'll just talk about the listening section because we are doing listening section. So in the listening section, out of the tasks of listening, the main tasks are highlight and correct words, write from dictation, summarize spoken text, and fill in the blanks that contribute actually to your listening score, that have a contribution. And apart from there are other tasks like you have retell lecture, repeat sentences. These tasks again contribute to your listening score. Okay, Ajay Kumar has asked this sessions about other sections. You would soon keep checking the PTE tutorials and website and practicing from there. So you will get updates for the webinars and where, at what time, what date we are going to conduct and what topic. You will get the details from there. Okay. And how much punctuation affects for write from dictation? Demir has asked how much punctuation. Okay, so you need to have a full stop, that is important, and your first letter has to be capital, that is important. And apart from that, there is no specific instruction or in the scoring guide related to punctuation. I mean, if you are not sure, you can ignore it. It's okay. And if you are sure, you can write it. But words are the most important thing for write from dictation. Spelling is. Sandy has asked that if there is no negative marking in write from dictation, can I write the 2 words and he has written a sentence, for example? Okay, now this is something that is debatable, and yes, many people tend to follow this, but I would suggest, yes, you can write. There's no official that you cannot write. There is no official declaration that you cannot write. But I would like to share one document with you just to help you understand something related to this question, because we get a lot of these questions. Yeah. So I hope you're able to have a look at this part where you have this write from dictation. Now here, if you see the scoring criteria, each correct word spelled correctly gets 1 mark. Each incorrect or misspelled word gets a 0 mark. So if you look at it from this point, yes, if you write 2 words and if you're confused and if you write 2 words, you may get full marks, but then you need to also focus here on the sub skills that are tested. Here, the second point that they are mentioning is following an oral sequencing of information. That how well can you follow an oral sequencing of information? So here they're clearly mentioning the sequencing of information, that how is the information sequenced. So although there is no clarification here, I would suggest that until and unless it is very, very important, or I mean, you're not sure, don't write 2 words. Yeah, if you're not sure, you can write, but I mean, don't make it as a habit that, okay, just for the sake of writing, you're writing 2 words every time. Don't make it as a habit. That okay, I'm not sure, but let me write both the words. When you're sure, at least write. If you're sure, at least write 1 word. Okay. Okay, Hemendra again asked that speech of speaker in listening give guidance that I can understand what is. Hemendra, try to listen. Okay, now for listening, all of I mean anyone who is facing particular difficulty in listening, I would suggest one thing. See, all the audios that you're going to listen to in in this particular section are different sources and different, but most of the audios would be more or less academic in nature. Now, what you have to do is, for your regular practice of listening, what you can do is you can download a lot of audios on one platform. That means the platform could be podcasts. You can download a podcast application on your mobile phone and download a lot of audios on that, and then place them in random order. So while you're downloading, download a bulk together, download 20 or 30 together or 50. And once you have done, then start listening to those audios randomly. That means in random order. So you don't know which is the audio that is going to come next. What is the topic that you're going to listen to next? It's just like listening to songs on a random mode. You don't know what is the next song because you put it on the random mode. Do the same thing for podcasts, arrange them randomly, and then listen to each one by one. So you don't know what is the next podcast, but you just try and listen from there and try to become. So every time you listen to a different podcast, it would have a different type of accent, different type of different way of speaking, different topic. So it would help you to become mentally prepared. Listen to 20 or 15 or 20 different podcasts in random order, because this is what is actually going to happen in your test. Okay, yes, Patel, apart from first word, can we write other proper nouns in capital in right from dictation? Yes, you can do that. Vishal Kumar, the last answer, the last question from Vishal is that how many write from dictation we may have. You could have either 3 or 4 of them in the actual test. So you need to be prepared for that. Okay, and Divyang Kumar is raising the hand. So Divyang, if you have a question, you can post it. Okay, Sandy is asking for the position of mic. If you have headphone there, so please, that would help a lot of many people. I don't have that mic right now, but I would just see. There are different versions of different people saying different things about the position of mic. But what I would say is that each and every person has a different kind of sound, different kind of voice. Someone has a very, it could be high pitched, low pitch. So what I would suggest is place mic, record yourself and see that when you listen to your recording, at what position is your own recording very clear for you, instead of someone else telling you to where to place your mic. See how you speak, and in the way you speak, do you speak softly? Is your voice very is your voice high pitched? Is your voice low pitched? Based on that, you select your own placement of mic. Just make sure that your sound should be very clear, and the mic in the actual test, it is very sensitive. Okay, Hemendra says that great opportunity to attend this webinar. Thank you from bottom of my heart, suggesting you same for other. Okay, Hemendra, we are arranging seminars for other sections, and you will soon be updated. All the information will soon be updated on our website. Thank you. Hello. Please tell me for a retail lecture. I use words only, got 71 marks last time. The speaker was discussing 4 keywords he talked for. Do you think that could be the issue? I struggled in exam for retail. Okay. We'll discuss this for retail lecture. We'll definitely discuss in the speaking section whenever we have that. Kalkal has asked that for answering reading section, some people ask to read first few sentences of FERA, then go back to the option and select the correct one. While others say that read the option first, then scan and skim the entire para to look at answer in the para. Okay, for the reading section, we already had a seminar and a webinar. So because it's time to end the session now, I won't be answering question related to reading section. I'll quickly answer this question, but see, the answer to this question is that for any reading I mean any passage in the reading section, so either it be multiple choice or is it multiple answer or multiple choice, choose single answer, depending on what everything depends on what the question is. Okay, some people ask to read first few sentence of para and then go back and select the correct one. Okay, so Kalkal, I would suggest that read the question first. What type of information you have to find it? Do you have to read it for the, do you have to read it for to find out some detail? Do you have to read it for some specific information? You have to skim it, depends on. So simply, to simply put it in this way, read the question, read the passage, read the options. All right, so I hope we have answered all the questions. Sunil is asking for the link of reading webinar or previous webinars, right? Sunil, I'm not sure about that, but yes, the admin team would be able to answer that question. All right, so friends, thank you very much for being here with us. And I have one request. I can say, yeah, it's a request to all of you that now, since I hope I have been able to help you understand the listening section, help you to clear any doubts if you had, and I've tried my best to answer all the questions. So now what I'm suggesting is that you can, whatever your views are on this particular webinar, whatever your reviews are, I would suggest that please share them on our web page, on our Facebook page, that is PTE Tutorials. We have a Facebook page. We have a we have a review section in our on our website, so you can go there. We even have a Telegram group, so you can even join the group and post your reviews about this particular webinar on that group. So what would happen is this would help the other students who are preparing, or other people who are preparing for PT. This would help them to make an informed choice that is this the I mean, they would come to know that, okay, this is a good platform where we can go for our practice. So I would suggest all of you who have attended this seminar and feel that they have been it has been useful for them, I would suggest go to our website, go to our Facebook page and tag your friends and mention that yes, you attended a webinar over here and it was helpful to you. That would help other people make an informed choice. Right, so I hope we are done for today. See you for the next webinar. Till then, goodbye.